Aloha, I'm Representative Corinne Ching, and I want to thank you for joining us on our first show called Harnessing Heritage. And on this show, we'd like to talk about heritage, which is historic preservation. It's keeping what's unique about the place we call home. And we're going to have a series of shows this year, and we're going to have some experts who are your people on the front lines of historic preservation who have great expertise, great knowledge, and understanding of this important issue that is upon us every day. You know, we are a tourism industry, our foremost industry, although we have efforts to diversify and we want to diversify, we still are a tourism-based industry. As well, we want to keep our home a place that we identify with, that our children can connect with. There's so many attributes to that, so much value when children can feel that they are in a place that is special, that they connect to, that their parents and their grandparents connected to. So we know that these are the many values of what is known as historic preservation. And we do have here at the legislature the Heritage Caucus. So the Heritage Caucus is dedicated to this policy of making sure we preserve what's unique about Hawaii and taking care of those places that are so important or sacred. And today, in our first show, we have with us today two important people in the historic preservation community who are so well regarded and very much loved too. We have Robert Saarnio and also Tonia Moy. Thank you for joining us today. Yeah. If I may, I'd like to talk a little bit about their backgrounds because you know, it's special to know that that we have people in the community who have very extensive backgrounds, who are working sometimes behind the scenes to keep those things that all of us, our families, enjoy on a regular basis. We may not think about it when we walk into a museum. We may not think about it when we enjoy such a beautiful place such as maybe Lanai, or places that have unique architecture, but they're preserved by someone, and those people do so sometimes just quietly behind the scenes, but they're keeping these precious this heritage for us. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Robert. Robert Saarnio is currently the Deputy Director at the Honolulu Academy of Arts. And before that, Rob was the Associate Director and Historic Property Manager at Shangri-La, the home of Doris Duke, right? And the Director of Historic Houses and Curator at Johns Hopkins University. Rob's experience in restoration and conservation has taken him across the United States. He received his A.B. in Fine Arts from Harvard University and a Master's in Historic Preservation from the University of Pennsylvania. Thank you for joining us, Rob.
Happy to be here, Corinne. Thanks.
Now we have also Tonia Moy. Tonia, longtime friend, I've known also for a long time. Tonia is an architectural historian with Fung Associates, Inc., Fung, and she's worked with the State Historic Preservation Division for 12 years. The last 2 years, she was the architecture branch chief. Ms. Moy is responsible for the research, preparation, and review of nominations to the Hawaii and National Registers of Historic Places, coordination of review board hearings and related historic property matters. She received her BFA degree and Master's in Architecture from the University of Hawaii. Thanks for joining us, Tonia.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So on this first show, we really wanted to first talk about, you know, you can tell that I had my background as a teacher, but first talk about why historic preservation is important, and then, well, probably firstly, what is historic preservation? I'm not sure that most people have the opportunity to be exposed on a really a deeper level to what is historic preservation. They may know that it's saving some buildings, but what is it truly? What is it, you know, sort of its definition, and then why it's important? Because we know that in the legislature, there's a myriad of issues that we discuss. and I've thought it long and hard about the relationship between all of these. We grapple with the budget. We grapple with human services. We grapple with safety concerns. We, of course, are very eager to do something about education. And who can forget the small businesses that provide income, the backbone of our economy, and I think the holder of some of our culture. So we're grappling with all of these issues, and it's my contention that if you really deeply look at what policies could you make besides just completely saying, okay, we're going to fund this, what are the deeper roots of where could we plant a seed where it would grow to address some of these issues. And I've always thought it was historic preservation. Why? Because I think when you have historic preservation, there's a message involved. You're saying that people matter, how you do something matters. You have a more careful approach to urban design that flows with it then and helps behavior, helps to mold behavior so that people are visiting those small businesses. And when they're visiting the small businesses, hopefully they're getting to know each other, a sense of community. That can translate to stronger PTSAs. Our PTSA, Ma'e, we're a great school, but it's no mistake, we have the largest PTSA in the state of Hawaii. So that's linked to scores, educational scores. So you have economy, I won't even go, safety, a better community, more beautiful, revitalized one is safety. And so, and it all lends itself to the helping hands and help human services. So that's my interest in historic, as I really do believe that, contrary to what many may perceive historic preservation to be, the frosting on the cake, the thought after you've taken care of bread and butter, the meat and potato issues. I say that you cannot address meat and potato issues without considering the value of historic preservation. Rob, can you tell us more about the definition of historic preservation?
Sure,
why it
Corinne,
matters?
happy to. In some respects, it's almost easiest to describe what historic preservation is not today. It's not any longer just about focusing on individual landmark buildings and not just about saving buildings. That's an important part of the preservation movement. But it's really fundamentally grown in its diversity of concerns to be concerned with the entire built environment, historic landscapes, objects, engineering structures. The cable cars of San Francisco are a classic case of a National Historic Landmark that's movable, that's an actual daily functioning feature of the city of San Francisco. So whether it's landscapes, buildings, structures, districts, objects, the concerns of historic preservation have broadened far beyond the 19th century origins of preservation, where the first actual movement in the 1850s was to save Mount Vernon, the home of the first president of the United States. By 1966, the National Historic Preservation Act comes before Congress, and this is where the federal government, for the first time, has a profound and well-defined role in historic preservation. And in that act in 1966, a framework is established, a partnership between the federal government and the states and the local governments that gives the country for the first time an actual rational set of processes to both regulate and to understand historic resources. And so preservation is really both a legitimate function of government at the federal, state, and local level, but it's also a grassroots political movement and has been since the 19th century. But I think most importantly, going back to what you started by saying, it's a value system.